This is a crazy thing to admit to, but for the past few years, I've been living a double life, and it just got completely ramped up, and it's really hard to keep track of my multiple identities. I'm not a spy. I'm an author using a pen name. And using a pen name is one of those things that so many authors think is going to be a great easy way out. They think that it's going to be something that they can use to give themselves more confidence when writing slightly edgy material. They think it's something that's going to make them feel less scared of putting themselves out there and less terrified of putting their emotions on show for people. But sometimes having a pen name is far from being the easy way out. There are a lot of things that you really need to consider when doing this. And of course, there are a lot of great reasons as well to have a pen name. So in this episode of the How to Be an Author podcast, I thought it would be really, really important to go over the great reasons to have a pen name, and then maybe some of the not so great reasons and some of the challenges to having a pen name. And then finally, and this is kind of the most important thing, other than figuring out what to do once you've chosen your pen name and how to choose a good pen name, how do you market yourself under a pen name? This is probably the biggest challenge to authors who've worked under a pseudonym is marketing themselves, because you may think that you don't have a big author platform as a beginner. You may think that you don't have anyone you can sell your book to, but you actually do have a big network. You have family, you have friends, you have coworkers, any of whom might be tempted to buy your book simply because you, a person they know, wrote it. Once you have a pen name, how do you do that? How do you show up on social media, including video where most people show themselves, right, their real face? How do you market yourself? Well, let me tell you, I've got quite a bit of experience when it comes to marketing yourself under a pen name, and I can tell you all about what I've done and also what you can consider as you market yourself under your pen name. And for me, this is very much a work in progress. So I think I'm starting off just a little tiny bit ahead of you on this one, and I'm very much in the trenches of it, so it's quite fresh in my mind. So thank you for joining me on the How to Be an Author podcast, and let's start talking about pen names. If you're a writer dreaming of becoming a successful author, join me, writing coach Karena Akhavein, on the How to Be an Author podcast, your weekly source for writing information, inspiration, and motivation. Welcome, I'm writing coach Karena Akhavein. I specialize in helping writers like you go from aspiring or stuck to successful published authors. I help you with the mindset, with technical skills, and with any kind of actionable advice that's going to move the needle and get you writing and getting published. So today let's talk about the pen name, because I think so many times writers will spend a lot of time thinking about, should I use a pen name? Which pen name will I choose? And they're a little bit frozen by that choice. And I think it's really important to start thinking of this on the early side, because it's never too early to start marketing yourself and to start building your author platform. The sooner you've decided whether you're using a pen name or not and what your pen name is, the sooner you can get started. So let's talk first about the advantages, the possible pros of having a pen name or a pseudonym or a nom de plume, as they say. Maybe I'll tell you first about why I actually chose my pen name. I did this because, as you know, I'm a writing coach, and I also am an author who's written things that skew more academic, more lifestyle, and also some kind of mystery books that are a little bit more cerebral. So when I started writing a completely different genre, I thought to myself that I did not want to confuse my reader, so I chose a pen name. And also some of the stuff I write is a little bit on the spicy side, and I didn't want that to color my professional persona. So I thought to myself, having a pen name is a great source of added privacy. This is going to allow me to separate my personal life from my professional life and my writing life. I thought that that would be pretty cool. And it's true that in a way, having a pen name gives me a little bit of courage to write things that are a little bit more controversial, or as I said, a little bit more spicy, and not worry about everyone from my work is going to see it. But I might be different from you because I do let some people from my personal life know that I've written something under a pen name. So there is a little bit more overlap. It's just more for clients that I'm trying to keep this straight, and also for people who are looking for a specific type of book over another. Flexibility is another great thing that a pen name allows you to do. As I was saying, different genres, different styles, without confusing your readers or hurting your reputation. Oftentimes they talk about choosing a niche and sticking to it. Now, your opinion on whether it's a good idea to stick to one niche versus another might be different from mine. But many writers think that it's important to have some kind of a reputation when it comes to writing one genre before you branch out into others. You might be impatient to do that before you have a real established, cemented reputation, and you might be wanting to play around with different things. Then great. A pen name allows you that kind of flexibility. But here's one of the things, and I'm going to be doing a whole thing with the cons of having a pen name, but just to be thinking about this, the more genres you're writing in, the more books you're having to write. So if you're struggling with writing one book already, how can you imagine that you're going to be writing multiple books and promoting those multiple books under different names? Just think about how this exponentially increases the amount of work you need to do. Another reason that many authors decide to choose a pen name is because they're writing really sensitive or personal or emotional work, and a pen name allows them to gain a little bit of distance from that. I think that that can be a really useful tool, especially if you're writing something that's almost a memoir, but that you're able to distance yourself enough to gain some kind of healthy perspective from it and to make it a little bit more universal as opposed to being, a full memoir, confessional type of thing. Having a pen name really helps you to stop thinking of the character as yourself, for example, and that can be really, really helpful. I know a lot of writers who start off writing something that's just a barely fictionalized account of their life, and they have a really hard time writing a character that's nuanced because they're like, people are going to read this and they're going to think that the main character is me because there's similarities. And so they get really caught up in that. So maybe if that's the case with you, you can gain that distance using a pen name. Also, there's something in a pen name that can allow you to brand yourself in some ways more easily, right? In some ways, your pen name can become your brand. Like, let's say that your name is difficult, or it's hard to remember, or it's super common, or it doesn't really go with the image that you wanted to have. Well, you can choose a pen name that's going to help you to create a brand. That's really cool, right? Think of artists who, use a single name or who change their name to have something be really kind of impactful. I think that when it comes to branding, yes, a pen name can be really, really useful, but there are going to be challenges with this as well. Marketing, same thing, right? Your pen name can be used to target a specific audience. So, for example, if you're a romance writer and your name has really harsh sounds or something like that, you might think, you know what? My name doesn't go well with this audience. I need something softer. I need something that's going to appeal to my target reader. Fair enough. But we're going to have some issues, with marketing. It's going to take a real strategy. So when we think branding and marketing, we're talking about a brand at this point. We're talking about you're less of a person, more of a brand. And that could be helpful because it has you thinking more strategically. Because when you think of promoting yourself as a writer, as a person, that strategy kind of flies out the window because it's hard to, untangle your ego and your identity from your marketing and your branding. So also in terms of career, you can open yourself up to new career opportunities by having more pen names, because sometimes you're like, okay, I want to go for this writing job or that writing job with different audiences, and you have a problem because you're really known as a writer of a specific thing. So having this different name might let you start fresh in a way. I get that. That's definitely a thing. But again, be careful not to spread yourself too thin. So remember, you're going to start to think of, okay, are these true advantages? Are these advantages that really apply to me? Are there enough good reasons to use a pen name? Because there are definitely some drawbacks to using a pen name, and let's start talking about those now. The first thing is that you have to be really careful to realize that just because you're using a pen name doesn't mean that you don't have any kind of legal responsibilities or financial responsibilities. So you have to really think about, how am I going to be signing legal contracts? Am I feeling kind of so bolstered by my pen name that I think that I can avoid things like paying taxes or not writing stuff that's defamatory or that's plagiarism or otherwise illegal? Remember that you're going to be held liable for your actions, and you're going to be held liable financially for things, even though you are using a pen name. So you need to be really transparent about that. So just keep in mind that that's really important. Also, remember that using a pen name can cause some kind of confusion for your readers. They might not be knowing how to contact you. That's really major, and I'm going to talk about how to kind of get around that. But remember that when you have a pen name, you need to be this kind of complete individual, because if your readers are seeing that there's this book under a pen name and they can't find you anywhere else at all, they're going to start to wonder, like, okay, what's going on here? It might be a little bit weird. Also, keep in mind that if you use a pen name and is brand new and you don't have any, any identity or any presence under that pen name, it's going to be hard to get others to collaborate with you or to take you seriously or to want to work with you, because you're kind of this new entity. Keep that in mind. And then you're going to have some possible weird interpersonal issues, because when you use a pen name, it can be hard because it's a whole side that you're hiding from people, whether it's your reader or whether it's friends and family. You're going to start to feel like you're living a little bit of a double life. And I've had this issue with my pen name because my pen name has some quite well-known social media accounts where I'm giving, kind of advice, and people are really, enjoying this persona. But it's really hard if somebody comes across another persona or another identity of yours. You really want to make sure that you're not using your pen name to be kind of an asshole and say things that you wouldn't normally be putting out there as yourself, because you don't want it to impact anything if anybody finds out who you are. Because believe me, people are going to find out if they really care to. In this day and age, I had my daughter try to Google my pen name, and she's like, "Mom, there are all these Reddit threads about you, and there are all these different websites talking about your identity and all this stuff." And, that can be fine, right? Sometimes that's super fans who want to know who you really are, and that might be a good thing, but it could also be damaging. So you have to be really, really careful how that works. And remember the whole ethical issue of it, because are you using a pen name because, it's just you're writing a different thing and you're just doing it completely on the up and up? Or are you doing this to misrepresent yourself and deceive others, right? So it's one thing to have, a persona and to be playing a role, but there needs to be some kind of transparency as to, okay, I'm being a little satirical, or I'm, letting others know. So for me, people will ask, under my pen name, they'll say, "Oh, are you, related to this person? Or does this, what's it like being, like this or that?" And I will say, "Listen, this is a pen name, feel free to go, look for what it is, but I'm not pretending to be somebody I'm not." So that's really, really important. You need to really think, do I have that really honest reason to want a pen name? And is it going to be a big issue? Am I going to be able to really work with this and keep things straight? We'll talk about that in a second, but once you've chosen a pen name, how to work with it. That's really important. So let's talk about how to choose a pen name. Choosing a pen name is really great. It's kind of hard because you're really naming yourself, and there are a lot of things tied up with this, but it's also such a great opportunity. If you ever kind of didn't like your name, or if you ever thought like, wow, I wish I had a different name, well, here's your chance, right? So do it right, because you don't want to be switching pen names constantly. You want to kind of be able to develop this pen name. So pick it well and consider the following things before you make a concrete decision. First of all, consider your audience. If you're writing for a specific audience, you want that pen name to be something that they can pronounce. You want it to be something that they can remember. You maybe want it to be something that they can relate to in a way. So think about, for example, you might want to think of regional differences, international or national backgrounds. You might want to be thinking about, kind of social class. You might be wanting to think about different connotations of specific names. Maybe even think of, what age you want this character or this persona to be. All of those things are going to be really important. Consider your genre, because sometimes, in specific genres, you've got different types of names. So if you're writing kind of an action thriller, you want something that's kind of hard-hitting and that's maybe short, explosive type of name, kind of a common name. That's cool. But you also want to consider, is that name too common? You want it to be easy to search for. So remember that. Consider if you have a personal brand, is it something that reflects that brand? Is it something that people are going to be associating with that brand pretty easily? That's important. And also consider your real name. If you're using a pen name to separate your personal and professional lives and writing life, it might make sense to choose a pen name that's similar to your real name in some way. That's kind of interesting, right? Maybe the same initials, or maybe a rhyme, or maybe part of your real name. So it kind of helps you to identify with that name more when you are acting as that person, as a writer, or in your social media, or in your platform. That can be really key, because honestly, at some point, it starts to be this thing where you're playing a role or you're becoming this person. A lot of writers who've been writing under a pen name, they end up being known under that name. It's like actors who are working under an actor name. So make sure you're really comfortable with the name, and try a few on for size before you really commit, because who knows, you might be giving interviews under this name, and you might be signing this name to books for a long time to come. I hope that that's the case, but make sure that it's not something really weird for you. Again, I talked about the legal aspect, and when you are, choosing a pen name, you probably really want to check if your name is in use by somebody else, especially somebody else who's known, but you really want to find something that's kind of unique that nobody else has would be best, so that you avoid any legal issues. And make it kind of unique. You don't want it to be too common. You want it to be rememberable, but also, like, unlike a real name, you can have a pen name that's a little bit more cool. Like there's a writer whose name is like, it's a writer name, and they've got rainbow, and I know some writers who've got lavender. I know writers who have just these really cool, more fantasy names that are rememberable and that work as a name, but they aren't necessarily a name that exists in the real world. That's totally cool. I love that. Just think about whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you think is appropriate to your genre. That's really cool. So once you've chosen this pen name, there are some things you should definitely be doing, because when it comes to using your pen name, you should be using it consistently and effectively. So when I say consistently, I mean that you're going to be using this pen name across all of your written work in whatever that genre is. You're going to be using it on your website and your social media accounts. You're going to get an email with that name. So make sure that you are being really, really crystal clear about how you're using it. Make sure to get all of those handles. So you want to see, before you even settle on a name, make sure that there is an email available for it, that there is a website available for it, social media accounts, and reserve all of those things. You want to protect and register that pen name. You might want to trademark it, and you definitely, though, want to get the social media accounts and everything else for it. You're going to be wanting to create that website that's separate so that you can control your message and you can control your branding and you can reach out to your readers. And that's really, really important. I think that that's something that a lot of writers who use a pen name, they're like, oh, well, it's not me, so I can't possibly promote myself. Once again, not true. And now decide how transparent you're going to be. Do you want to let your readers know that you're using a pen name so that they can easily find you and connect with you? You might want to do that, and you might not want to. So that's really up to you, but just know that the less people know that you are your pen name, the more work you're going to need to do to get more people to buy your stuff. You definitely want to be professional, so be really consistent in your work and in your communication. It might take longer, so you might, really consider that your social media strategy and your marketing strategy is going to be a marathon. It's not a sprint. You definitely are going to be establishing a reputation and credibility over time. So definitely keep that in mind. That's really, really important. And definitely, be ready to adapt and adjust your strategy as needed because, when you're using a pen name, sometimes you didn't consider something that comes with using that name, or sometimes you're like, this is totally not working for me. How can I adapt? Don't hesitate too long. I mean, don't abandon your pen name too fast because it's, quote, not working. It takes a while to gain traction, but definitely be ready to pivot and adapt if you need to. But remember that being consistent with your work is going to help you to build that readership, and you're going to be establishing your reputation under time under that pen name. So many authors are so impatient with, oh my God, this is not working. This strategy is not working. I'm going to have to pivot. I'm going to have to try something new. I'm going to have to quit. No, that's not true. Most writers start to gain traction after a number of years. So keep that in mind as you go. And often also when you're using a pen name, what's going to help you to cement that pen name? Having more than one book under the pen name. That's kind of crucial. So the more books you have under your pen name, the more gravitas you're getting, the more you're going to have that reputation, and the more that reputation is cemented. So remember that. Now let's talk marketing when you use a pen name. I have said this, it is way more challenging than if you're using your real name because so much of what we're doing, especially in video now, is showing ourselves, being vulnerable, showing up for our readers, providing value and entertainment, but also that connection. How do you do that if you're not using your real name? There are some ways to do this, and I'm going to be brainstorming a little bit with you because I've obviously been thinking a lot about this, but let's talk about the basic stuff first. So first, as I said, you're definitely creating a website for your pen name, and you're using it to showcase your work and share a bio and connect with your readers. So when you're showcasing your work, have the cover of your book, have an excerpt, have some, reviews, have a bio, and by the bio, you don't need to fabricate a whole personality. You can put some elements of the truth, but put the things that matter to the style of work that you're putting out under that name, things that will allow your audience to connect to you. So you can put what your interests are. You can put, what you like to do, what's important to you, where you live, what you work on. All of those things can be part of your bio without you being a pathological liar, right? You can find things to connect about. So you can also use social media for your pen name. And you use that to share your work, for example. You can engage with your readers and build an online presence. And you're thinking to yourself, well, how do I share stuff? Well, you can share excerpts. You can share aesthetics. You can share things about your characters. You can share things behind your inspiration, for example, or you can definitely play a character. So I do this on social media. I create a character. I have a disguise. And honestly, it's obvious that it's a disguise. And I did this purposely because I didn't want to pretend to be somebody I'm not. My persona has a lot of things about them that are absolutely true. And they're things that I don't share in my professional persona because they're not, at all pertinent to what I do as a writing coach, right? So I can use those elements in my persona under my pen name. And so that's been something where I've really been able to engage because my viewership, my audience, they feel that there's authenticity behind it, and there is. And my costume being an obvious costume is kind of how I signify to my viewers, hey, this is an alter ego, but I'm saying some really fundamental truths here. And hey, go read my book. So it's kind of fun. This is an opportunity to really play a role in a fun way. And then you can absolutely, if you have, this disguise, for example, you can absolutely attend events, conferences, and other things, and connect with people, either in disguise or not in disguise. Keep in mind that, okay, let's pretend that you don't have a disguise, but you're an accountant and you have a pen name that you're writing romance books under, okay? So this is how you would separate that out. You would go to professional conferences as an accountant, for example, for all of your photos on LinkedIn as an accountant, for all of your things on your, resume, on your website as an accountant, all of that stuff, you're going to have a photo of yourself where you're a little bit buttoned up and you're using, you're basically using your professional persona and you're talking about work stuff, you're dressing a certain way, speaking a certain way. When you are appearing as your pen name, loosen it up. Have maybe a signature piece that you wear, right? Or wear your hair a different way, or, put on a pair of sunglasses or something like that, that differentiates your professional persona and your pen name. You can still connect because any book that you write is still going to be highly personal. Even if you're writing under a different name, it's a different aspect of yourself. So remember that. You're not lying, you're just showing a different side. I think that's a really good way to look at it. You can also be writing guest posts under other websites, blogs, publications under your pen name. Again, you're showing a different side of yourself. So this is not a lie. This is not misrepresentation. This is definitely something where you're just showing another facet of yourself. So I think that's really, really crucial. Another really important thing to do, and this is something that I'm like right in the middle of this under my pen name, is reaching out to reviewers and bloggers and other types of book influencers so that you can get your work reviewed. And that's going to get your work and your name in front of lots more readers. So important. I think that it's harder to kind of go for more reviews and stuff like that when you don't have your friends reviewing your work. But in a way, I think it's such a crucial exercise, and it's actually really healthy to think to yourself, okay, I can't lean on any of the crutches I thought I would lean on. And so instead, and I have an episode on this of how your friends and family are not your ideal reader, I think that this really pushes you to find your ideal reader and be forced to reach out to them and to consistently be using marketing to reach them. I think that's a really important thing. This is also going to force you to do more email marketing. I've been building an email list of readers who are interested in my work. So the first thing I did is that I offered them a free PDF of my work the day before publication. And so I thought to myself, you know what, this is totally worth it. Rather than, be trying to get these people to buy my book, let me have these people who've been supporting me under my pen name, let me give them something. And in exchange, hopefully they'll want to review it. So I've been getting the little reviews piecemeal as they do that, but it's definitely gotten me a lot of people on the mailing list because a freebie is a great motivator. Another thing that I've now promised them, now that we no longer have the freebie, I'm saying, okay, let's wait and see what you get next. You'll be getting some excerpts, maybe some additional scenes, maybe some more goodies, so people get intrigued by what you'll do next. But of course, that presupposes that you are really connecting with that audience. So think about that. Connecting with the audience is key because then they want to follow you. Another thing that's really important is using SEO. So you want to optimize that website and all your social media accounts for search engines so that it's easy for readers to find you. This is something that's always such a huge challenge for me. I've been working on this a lot and I'm still not 100% there. But in my course From Idea to Published in 6 months, I definitely have a whole portion dedicated to SEO. I think that that's so important to start thinking about SEO. So definitely, if you have this nightmare about SEO, from idea to publish in 6 months will have you thinking about it in a much more sane and less panicked kind of way. And also, this course, I think, is just a really great place to start, especially if you're starting with books under a pen name and in a new genre. It's going to help you to churn out those books much faster, i.e., in 6 months, so that you have more books under your name, and that's going to give you an advantage when it comes to marketing and presence. And as I said, that authenticity is crucial. Authenticity, no matter what your name is what is going to help you to build a loyal readership and to get a loyal audience and to establish a reputation. That authenticity is so important, and it's not something that you build up once and just let it go. This is something that you keep adding onto with that marketing strategy and with your persistent efforts to reach a wider audience under your pen name. If you are a Writing Coach on Demand member, you are going to get access to a bonus podcast episode with some more really cool marketing ideas that will work whether you're using a pen name or whether you are just kind of stagnating and trying to figure out what you can possibly do to engage with those readers. And if you're not a Writing Coach on Demand person, you might consider wanting to sign up for that, because that's where you get access to office hours with your writing coach for the price of less than $1 a day. You get bonus materials, you get savings on the website, including on courses, and you get office hours with me, your writing coach, in addition to extra exercises, extra PDFs, all kinds of goodies. So head over to creativeandwritingcoach.com and you will get access to that. I hope that this really helped. If you were trying to think about how do I consider whether to do a pen name or not, how do I market myself under a pen name, I think there are a few really good tips in there, and you'll want to keep following me and signing up for my mailing list if you're not on it on creativeandwritingcoach.com. This is where you get a bunch of really inspirational newsletters, and it'll kind of be telling you what to think about, and also it'll be alerting you as to any cool new things coming out on the site. So I love to see you there, and please always feel free to reach out, send me an email if you have any crucial question, or if you want to know how you can get the most value out of a writing coach, how a writing coach can help you to get that book finished, edited, published out there, and promoted. That is what I work on every single day of my life, and I would love to work on it with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to being with you next time on the How to Be an Author podcast. If you have any pressing writing-related questions or would like to be featured on the How to Be an Author podcast, please feel free to reach out on my website, creativeandwritingcoach.com.